I just think we want consistency, though, don't we? As fans and as journalists, you want sort of... Because I personally think, for me, it doesn't matter if it's the last minute, the first minute, the 36th minute. If you're in that position, you bring your player down, it's a penalty and it's a red card. It's like these sort of exterior influences you saw with the Ryan Shawcross red card at the weekend. Personally, I didn't think it was actually a sending off. I think the fact that his leg ended up in such a mess, that's what he actually got sent off for, the fact that he caused such a serious injury. Whereas if he hadn't caused that injury, perhaps it only would have been a yellow card.
I think it's a lot more difficult when you're actually in the middle. And I, obviously, a pundit now, but referee sometimes. It is when the pressure's on you and it's a showpiece occasion, and you're going to send off a player in the first, or fourth minute of the game, and he's not quite up to the pace, and you're wondering, is it definitely? And you sort of like always go on the side of caution. You've got to be absolutely clear, and if he wasn't clear, then who are we to judge it? But he was pretty close. And it was two players involved, and he was about to shoot. It's as near as damn it, isn't it, that it's clear-cut that. You couldn't get much more clear-cut decision than that. So, as I say, I think it should have been red card and penalty. And Fergie said that. Of course he would, because he'd won by then.
Well, he was talking after the game, Alex Ferguson. You always know if United won. Suddenly he gets very gregarious. Yeah,
he's actually lining up now, saying that he thinks that Martin O'Neill would be a perfect person to step into his role. Didn't quite go that far, just paying tribute to his opposite number at Villa Park.
Well, he's down to earth, he's intelligent, and I think all his teams reflect him. You know, I think all his teams have been down to earth teams. All work hard, good work ethic about him. Everywhere he's been. You know, you saw his Leicester team. What he was good at Leicester, I thought, was plucking players who weren't doing well at other clubs, who were just sort of a run-of-the-mill players, and brought them to Leicester and did really well with them. I'm just thinking that big centre-half he brought from Oxford. Elliott. Yeah, he's a perfect example of it. He was I would just say, a bread and butter player at Oxford, and he comes to in Leicester and he gets a League Cup medal, you know. He did well with these players. I think he brought Izzet from Chelsea in a free. Steve Guppy, yeah. So he was good at that time. When he went to Celtic, obviously a different level altogether. You're talking about different demand and expectation, and he won the treble the first year. You know, so he's consistent and he's down to earth, and I think that's reflecting his teams.
We'll be talking about Alex Ferguson and possible successors in a moment, but the more astute amongst you will have noticed we now have a quorum. Andy Ritchie's with us. He said it took me 2 hours to drive from Huddersfield. I used to have a car like that. Yeah. We've been talking about Wayne Rooney. Just a brief summation. Based on his form this season, he's a real force of nature, the kid, at the moment, isn't he?
How brief do you want it? Magnificent. Unbelievable. He's been a revelation. And I think, you know, somebody asked me the other day about he must have been working on his headers, but I think he's intimated he has. But he's playing up front now. He's getting into areas where he needs to head the ball. He's in the 6-yard box, and he's also said that that's the best place that he feels he does the most damage, and he certainly has this season.
Right, now we've got... The pressure's off you a little tad, Peter, but...
Pile it on, I'm OK.
Oh, I know you are. Successors to Fergie. There's no obvious sign that he's about to give up, but it is a recurrent theme once you approach your 70th birthday, and he's not that far short.
Well, to save on expenses in these tough times of ours, I took both reporters and the photographer in my relatively posh car to Wembley, and all the way back we discussed this topic. And we've got a little short list of 5.
Have you? Is he one of them?
No chance.
Yeah, no, you're all right. Don't worry. Right, well, Andy Ritchie tops.
Yeah, of course.
Right, that's a given. Right. Now, in no particular order, but we did have an order in the end. Mourinho, right, Capello, Laurent Blanc, O'Neill and Moyes.
Right, well, go on, you take that one.
Yeah, I was actually going to put forward Laurent Blanc, but you had him in already, because he's obviously done a great job over at Bordeaux. I mean, it's going to be an impossible task, though, isn't it, Andy, to actually name someone as Fergie's successor when the time eventually comes?
Well, I think, obviously, you've got to have vast experience. That's one thing that will be on top of the list, I think. I think you've got to have an aura about you as well, because I think you've got to be somebody that everybody looks up to. And I think you've also got to have that cutting head, and you've got to be, not scared to make tough decisions, which Sir Alex has got in abundance. He's shown that over the years.
I think also, Peter, though, and you'll know this from your many years of covering Manchester sport, is that the sheer scale of the United job. I can remember going there once with a film crew on a Monday afternoon, and we got the last car park space. There was about another 12 film crews, and that's the norm, isn't it? The demands on your non-football time are astronomical if you're in charge of United.
Well, they are, but I think it's changing now to more of an American-style kind of approach where you don't necessarily need... You can have one manager who looks after... or one guy who can look after the contracts. You can have somebody else who maybe helps you with the Premier League, and then maybe someone else who helps you with the European outlook as well. So you have like a team of people. I think we've seen that a little bit at City with Brian Kidd helping Mancini there. So I think that there is a little bit of kind of working together to get the right balance. I think that's what United will look for, because the number one criteria for that job would be European experience. That would be the number one, because you can always get somebody else in, like Phelan, to help get through the Premier League matches, some of which are not as difficult as others.
Well, we were talking before, Andy, about I wouldn't want to be the man who goes to Fergie and tells him that Fabio Capello would like him to rest Rooney in the cause of England. But I'd rather fancy that job compared with the man who has to go and tell him that he's not in charge of everything at Old Trafford.
Well, I think he is.
He
does everything, doesn't he?
Everything.
I mean, his finger is on every single bit of the operation. But I think that Peter's right. I think
his successor will have a different brief.
I think he will have a different brief. And for me, the one out the list there is Mourinho. For me, I think he's got everything. I think he could take it and pull it off like that.
You see, one of the problems with that is, if Mancini goes, and he will go if they don't get a top four place, Mourinho's with the number one target for City.
Yeah, well, I was about to throw that in, but we'll talk about City in a minute. Of that list that Peter threw your way, Andy's plumped for Mourinho. Who's your name in the frame, young Ian?
Oh, I couldn't possibly name just one. I think Mourinho, though, is, one of perhaps the most obvious person to take over, just because he is this fantastic character as much as anything else, and he's got great experience, obviously won trophies as well wherever he's been. I wouldn't mind seeing someone like Laurent Blanc take over. I know that his connection with United perhaps aren't as strong as some of the other ex-Fergie fledglings that they're called that have gone into management, but I think someone who's been at United before and knows what the club's about as well, perhaps that's an important attribute. Maybe someone British as well, that would be nice, but you can't have it all, can you?
Right, well, we'll come back to this Mourinho thing, because, with no disrespect, Andy, and I'll let you answer this in the next part, he's not coming back to England to run Burnley or Wolves, with all due respect, is he? Listen, time for a quick break now. Remember, we do want to hear from you, so drop us a line today at channelm.co.uk.